What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a little bit of a look at a couple of new Digimon cards, except they're going to seem very, very familiar to some of you, because if you look at them side by side, they're like the same card. Literally the same card. They are exactly the same card, albeit for different colours. So, what we see is we've got a new Metal Greymon and we've got a new Garurumon. They are both level 5 Digimon. They are both 6 power to play normally. They both cost 3 to evolve. And they've both got 7,000 power. We will look at these individually in a moment, because we do have other versions of the same Digimon to look at. And certainly when we get to the stage where we've got multiples, one of the best things we can do is actually start looking comparatively at all the Garurumon to see which is the best one. So we will need to split them up in that regard. In terms of the stats, 6 cost to play normally, 3 cost to evolve, 7,000 power. Well, the 3 cost to play normally is what we see from basically every level 5, that is standard. 7,000 power is on the higher end for level 5, so that's quite nice. And 6 cost to play normally is on the lower end for level 5s, so actually the stats here are pretty good for them. And I did say they were the same cards, and they are, even down to having the exact same skill. When you attack, gain free memory. At the end of your turn, lose free memory. This is very interesting. What you're essentially doing is borrowing memory. And borrowing memory, like borrowing money, it comes due. Essentially, what it does is it gives you extra memory to use now, but it will then be paid back to your opponent. So let's say, for argument's sake, you're playing a red deck, and you really want to play Starlight Explosion, make your security cards a lot better. But you've only got 1 memory remaining. If you play Starlight Explosion, the turn's going to pass to your opponent, and they'll have 1 memory left. But you don't actually want to pass the turn to your opponent yet. You want to play Starlight Explosion, and then, I don't know, you want to play that 5 cost promo Agumon. Well, now you can. You play Starlight Explosion, but instead of having 1 memory, because you attacked and gained 3, you've actually got 4 memory, you go down to 2. You play the Agumon, it goes to 3 memory for your opponent, but then it goes from 3 to 6 because the bill becomes due. Now, of course, remember, you could have multiple of these Digimon in play at the same time. And that actually gets super interesting to me. Because let's say, for argument's sake, you've got 4 of one of these down, which is possible. How does this work? We know there's a hard cap on 10 memory. So presumably you attack with 1, gain 3 memory, you attack with 1, gain 3 memory, but as soon as you hit 10 memory, it stops. So then you end up with lots of memory. You then play a couple of cards, and when you've got 2 memory remaining, you play a Greymon. Now that's a 12 cost card, so when you play Greymon, you go from 2 memory for you to 10 memory for your opponent. But remember, you've attacked with multiple Metal Greymon here. So what happens? Presumably there is still that hard cap of 10 memory, so you can basically use these cards, manipulate yourself up to the maximum 10 memory, we assume it doesn't go any higher, play a bunch of cards trying to end on a really expensive card to give your opponent 8, 9, 10 memory anyway. Then it tries to give you minus 9, 12 memory if you've attacked with 3 or 4 of these, but it can't because there's a hard cap of 10 memory. So you can actually use these cards to manipulate it such that you don't actually get a downside. Now, it basically forces you to pass a turn to your opponent with like 10 memory, But instead of passing it to your opponent with 10 memory because the bill becomes due, you pass it to your opponent with 10 memory because you played a really expensive level 6 Digimon, and the bill can't become due. That's what I find really interesting about these. If I use it to borrow free memory this turn and then it gives it back to my opponent, I'm not loving these cards at all. They don't strike me as particularly great. It means I can do more on my turn, but then it just means my opponent can do more on their turn. And maybe I do more on my turn such that I play extra Gaia Force to destroy my opponent's Digimon, and in that regard, yes, that will actually be awesome and work very nicely. But outside of that, I'm not thinking it's going to be that amazing. But if I can use this to put myself up to 10 memory, play a bunch of cards, put my opponent to say 10 memory on a really expensive card, and then the skill tries to minus memory, but it can't because my opponent's already hit the cap, that's when I think these cards come into their own. Now, of course, we're asking a lot for this to actually work. I've got to get 3 or 4 of these out, and then get myself all the way up to 10 memory, and then have a really expensive card to play. But tell me it won't work, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me it won't work. So they're the cards in and of themselves. I think I've made it quite clear that there are different ways to play these, and I think one is significantly better than the rest. However, we do need to look and compare these to the existing ones. Now, if we have a little bit of a look at Metal Greymon here, we've only actually seen one of these. It was the one that came around in the starter set. We've not seen any promos until this point. Now, that one, if we look at it side by side in terms of the stats, 7 cost to play normally, so 1 more expensive, 3 to evolve the same, 7,000 power. So the stats are largely comparable, but it's 1 more expensive to play if you're not evolving. And it has an inheritable skill whereby during your turn, when this Digimon is blocked, you get +3 memory. It really depends what your opponent's doing in terms of blockers. If your opponent is playing a bunch of blockers and looking to block you, then clearly this is the better one. It's very much a metagame call. Of course, it is also an inheritable skill, so when you evolve up into War Greymon or above, certainly this is going to be better than the promo, because the promo gives you literally nothing. These are very different cards. Honestly, if you're looking to play this one from New Evolution, which I think I may have mistakenly called a promo, it's not a promo, it's from New Evolution. I made a promo video earlier, so hopefully you can understand. The thing is, it's a very specific kind of card. You are playing this card if you want to use a skill multiple times and then play a really expensive card so you're not burned by it. Or because you really have a deck that needs to play multiple cards in a turn, and you don't really care about passing it to your opponent with a bunch of memory. Whereas the starter deck Metal Greymon is far more of a, my opponent might not be playing blockers, my opponent might not want to block me even if they are, but you know what, there's a chance so I'll play it, who really cares? It's an inheritable skill, so if my opponent really wants to block my level 6 Digimon, as they often probably will, this is pretty good. Moving into where Garurumon, we've actually got 2. There was an actual promo version of this, and there was a version in the starter set as well. Check the art on the promo. It's kind of beautiful. Now, if we have a look at them, what we see is they are both 7 cost to play normally, which is 1 more than we see on this new one from New Evolution. They are both 3 cost to evolve, which, as I've said, is completely standard. That's what we see on everyone. And one of them is 7,000 power in line with this new one, and the promo is 6,000 power, which is a little bit less. But they've both got skills which can give extra security attack. The one that came out in the starter deck, when your opponent has no evolution sources, you get security attack +1. Now remember, the blue decks have a whole bunch of options, things like Zudamon, which will remove evolution sources. So, if you can find your opponent with any Digimon with no evolution sources, you get security attack +1. Now, bearing in mind, you could evolve into a Metal Garurumon, which makes itself active when it attacks, and would have security attack +1, which is pretty nuts. And then the Garurumon, the promo, if you've got 8 or more cards in hand, you get security attack +1. We've not seen that much pure draw at the moment. There's lots of draw when you evolve, draw when you play this card, etc. I don't think we've seen enough pure draw at the moment to recommend this one for the security attack. I think in the future we will, incidentally, but as it stands at the moment, we've not seen enough draw, so I don't know if I love this for the security attack. Now, it's also got a non-inheritable skill. If this Digimon has Garurumon in its evolution sources, you get to put it active once per turn when you attack, and this is what I really love. Incidentally, it's also the reason why it's only got 6,000 power, because you can make it active. You've got to evolve it from Garurumon, but if you do, you get to attack and then make itself active. That's kind of ridiculous. Honestly, if you're just going for the security attack, I like the Garurumon from the starter decks. I love the promo for the making itself active, and if we get better draw options, that will be my favourite. I hate to say it, but I think this one from New Evolution is probably my least favourite of the Garurumon, unless you are using it in the way we've explained in this video, in which case it's pretty gosh darn nice. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, 2 new cards that are the same. Very, very interesting. I assume there's a yellow and a green, incidentally. We haven't seen them yet, but I'm assuming they're out there. They do tend to do this in Digimon. We've already seen there are a bunch of cards that are basically just the same for all the colours. And they're pretty nice stats-wise, and they're very weird and awkward, but there are ways to play them which is basically like cheating, and that's kind of hilarious. But there are decisions to be made as to whether you play these or different versions of the same Digimon. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you think about these weird new cards, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk Digimon, Pokemon, Marvelmon, Keyforgemon, all kinds of fun stuff. And do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.